Hi, Joseph. You want to try again real quick, see if we can hear you now? And then hi, Joseph.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, there was something funky. We're good though.
Okay.
Thanks, Maddie.
Of course. Glad you have audio now. Hi, Jessica.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start recording the meeting.
Perfect. We can hear you. Great, Jessica. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Jessica, do we have all of our staff present?
I think so. Is Courtney on?
She is.
Yes, I am.
Then I think, yes, we're ready to get started.
Okay, I see Councilmember Marcano. Is Councilmember Coombs on the call?
I don't see her yet. I'll give her a text.
Okay, thank you. While we wait, for a response, let's go ahead and just call the meeting to order, so we can just be timely, and we'll start. I'll give it a few minutes to see if Councilmember Coombs is able to join. Otherwise, do we have any announcements that we want to share at this time? Doesn't look like that's the case. Okay. And we'll circle back to the approval of the January 12th meeting minutes. I don't have any edits. Councilmember Marcano?
None from me.
Okay, so they are approved as written. And we'll jump into our content for the day with agenda item 4A, City of Aurora Narcan update. Is that Courtney, the presenter?
Yes, council member.
Alrighty, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, council. Good morning, and good morning, everyone else. I wanted to give you all an update on our naloxone or Narcan initiative within the city. So back in July of last year, we actually received a standing order from the CDPHE bulk fund for Narcan. This allows us to get bulk Narcan for free. This is something that was identified by many of our departments, many of our programs within the different departments as being a need and even a necessity. As you know, we're very public facing. A lot of our communities are, experiencing this, and our staff members are interacting with them daily. So whenever we initiated this process, first of all, we determined what the need would look like. And while we were going through the application process for that CDPHE bulk fund, we got an idea of how much we would actually need. I actually got approval from the CDPHE bulk fund that we were able to order a little bit more than they typically permit. So with that, on the 20th of September, we were given 248 Narcan kits and 108 Cloxato, which is a higher dose of naloxone kits. All of these were distributed to the different departments and up to the discretion of that director to provide any training necessary or any kind of meetings and policy and procedures regarding the administration of and staffing of Narcan. With that, we did provide some kind of cookie cutter trainings for Narcan, things that are already being distributed by harm reduction centers across the state, across the country, as well as some different things that actually the libraries department here in the city of Aurora had implemented in the past. We did have legal review this after some questions that came up in the management meeting that I had attended. And with that, legal and risk management determined that there was no risk found for staffing all of our city staff with Narcan and for the administration or lack thereof. And that concludes my update for today.
And I just wanted to bring this here. We've had a few different council members ask questions about what the city is doing. We have also had questions from the community asking, and I will just say that from a community distribution standpoint, the standing order we have from the state is really for our operations as a city organization. So other nonprofits and entities within the community can apply through the same process that the city did. For getting that standing order. I know some of our nonprofits have done that already. So we just wanted to kind of make this public and let the community know how they can receive it. There's also been conversation among the two different opioid groups with Adams and Arapahoe County and some of the funding. Some of communities are thinking of purchasing or distributing Narcan for the community. But if the community has an organization that they feel strongly they need it, the best course is to really work with CDPHE to obtain it. So that's all we wanted to share. We've just been getting questions and concerns, and so thought we would provide an update.
And if I may add to that, within our commentary sheet for this, I also included how the public may access Narcan for free or low cost. So any person in the city, if they have Medicaid or many other insurances, they can go to local pharmacies and obtain Narcan for free. Insurance typically covers this. Now, if that individual does not have insurance, there is a cost associated. I can't provide an exact number because that will vary by pharmacy, of course. Their individuals can also visit stoptheclockcolorado.com to see which pharmacies around them carry naloxone. So we have that also as an available piece. And if you encounter any community groups or any nonprofits that are looking to do the CDPHE standing order, I'm happy to be a point of contact to walk them through that if that's something they'd like. And I'll take any questions.
Councilmember Marcano, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Councilmember Murillo, and thank you, Courtney, for the presentation. I don't have any questions. I do just have a quick correction. It's stoptheclockcolorado.org.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, and just thank you for sharing that, because I did not know that was a resource. So I'm going to also put that out on socials. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for catching that.
You bet, you bet.
Change that on my sheet as well. Wonderful. And I will say that many of our departments are already carrying Narcan, have been trained, and do have policies and procedures in place. I know within Housing and Community Services, they've been very proactive about that. My teams are carrying it out on the road, and PD also does carry Narcan. In fact, I heard it over the radio earlier this morning that they utilized it. So it is actively being used in our emergency services as well. Thank you, Council.
Alrighty, thank you for the update. All right, let's move along in the agenda. Agenda item 4B, neighborhood grants update. Is that you, Jessica?
I think that'll actually be me.
Go ahead.
Ready.
Excellent. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Please let me know if you don't see the PowerPoint presentation. So yeah, today just wanted to give you a very brief update on our neighborhood grants. Just to give you kind of a brief overview, we run these 3 grants in addition to our larger neighborhood improvement grant. The difference is we run these ones pretty much throughout the year, more or less. These are our 3 smaller grants. So the 3 opportunities that we offer to our residents are the Know Your Neighbor Grant, the Neighborhood Printing Assistance Grant, and the Neighborhood Small Activity Grant. There you can see a very brief description of each, but I'll kind of walk through each one. So the Know Your Neighbor Grant is our easiest one to obtain. That's basically where we'll give you a $100 gift card to King's Supers or a $100 gift card to Home Depot. Last year, we actually were doing $50 gift cards, but we bumped that up this year to $100 just to match. The idea there is to have neighbors kind of gather, get to know one another, build that social capital within their neighborhood. That's kind of the overall goal with all of these grants. The Printing Assistance Grant, similarly, we offer printing services, kind of small batch stuff, flyers, smaller posters, that sort of thing. Residents do need to come to us with a print ready file for that one. We don't do any development services for that poster or flyer. And then finally, our neighborhood small activity grant, we offer up to $250, and that can be used for larger neighborhood events, things like larger food catering. We've paid for bands and some other really neat items for large neighborhood events. Last year, this is the second year, just as an FYI, that we've run all of these grant opportunities. So last year, we had 31 applications come in for the Know Your Neighbor grant. Of those, 29 of them were approved, and of those 29, 27 followed through the entire process and received their gift cards. Reasons for not following all the way through, either we had some duplicate applications come in, incomplete applications, or no follow-up post-award. The printing assistance grant, we had 11 applications come in last year. Of that, 7 of them were approved, or rather all of them were approved. 7 of those followed through with the process and received their printed materials. Then finally, for the small activity grant, we had 15 applications come through last year. 10 of those were approved. Of those 10, 8 of them followed through with the entire process and got their funding. Reasons for non-completion there, either the neighborhood registration wasn't completed. That's one of our requirements for those last 2 grants you see. Their applicants withdrew their application for various reasons, or we were just provided with incomplete applications. As a heads up, all of these grants, of course, can be used in conjunction with one another. They're also able to be used in conjunction with our larger neighborhood improvement grant. We just started that grant cycle off here at the end of January. We're kind of in the middle of that, again, spinning that cycle up for that neighborhood improvement grant. And I'm sure we'll have more information on that one in particular once we kind of get into it. I do want to kind of walk through a couple project highlights. We do ask residents to provide us with photos from all of their events. So here's just some of the really amazing events. There's a lot of creativity that our residents have. So we're always really appreciative to kind of see what they're able to come up with. We've had them use movie nights in conjunction with our movie kit. So a lot of synergy working through all of our programming here. You can see there we had a Boy Scout troop involved. This one is probably my personal favorite. This is a group that we gave our small activity grant to, and they actually worked with a group of kids in the neighborhood to create a pop-up stand where they're kind of learning about economics and business and kind of all of that fun stuff in their own community. We also have had a bunch of cleanup events. Again, we see an inside movie night there, one of our communities, lots of block parties, so always tying into that process as well. But that's kind of the general overview of our grants. All of the applications are now available, including the improvement grant. But as we're still working through the spinning up of that cycle, there's a couple more steps. But for those 3 neighborhood grants, anybody's able to apply right now. So that's kind of the brief overview from last year, and I'm certainly open for questions.
Thank you, Scott. That was a great presentation. It's actually really timely. Councilmember Marcano and I attended the citizenship celebration with the Aurora Pacific Development Center on last Friday. And we actually mentioned a few, the block party kind of concept, and they were interested in maybe working with their members and new citizens, as folks who are taking a leadership role in their community to potentially put on some sort of block party or some sort of event to kind of keep the engagement going and make folks aware of kind of the resources that the city has to offer them and their neighbors. So thanks for the update. I'm going to send that over to them. Councilmember Marcano, do you have any questions on this item?
Thank you, Councilmember Murillo. First, I want to say I'm really happy to see that this is being well utilized. My question for staff is the existing budget adequate? Are we finding any constraints there in terms of what we can do per event? And are we depleting the full funding?
Great question. Yep, sorry.
No, that was it.
Great question. No, I actually think the funding is pretty good for where we're at now. I think, again, we're only in our second year, so we're still really building that kind of base awareness for the programming. I could see us maybe looking for more, some years down the line once it's extremely popular and we're really running through the budget. But I think we're pretty good where we're at right now.
All right, great. Thank you.
And I really appreciate all y'all getting the word out and helping us to that end. We're always very excited to have new residents come to us.
Councilmember Marcano, I would say the improvement grant piece, which is a little bit separate from this, but we get a lot of interest in that. And when you get into doing any type of actual physical change in a neighborhood, there's definitely demand there. So if we were going to put money into something additionally to create that neighborhood resiliency and making sure people are connected at the neighborhood level, and also just kind of from that quality of life standpoint of what the neighborhood looks like, that would be the piece that I think we would suggest.
Yeah, that's something that I did want to talk about, but it wasn't necessarily, directly related to this, but I would completely agree with that. As you know, I have some very active residents in Ward 4 who've been wanting to utilize that for a bunch of different projects, from like building a little amphitheater to wrapping utility boxes and things like that. But the existing budget is very, very small. So yeah, I can imagine that that's something that's in demand all over the city. So thank you both.
Yeah, and no questions on my end, just thanks for the updates. We'll definitely pass that along at my next town hall, and with other community partners that often engage our residents too. Maybe they can help, with the application. I think there's probably some folks who will just do it, because they're just that type of neighbor, that type of person that's gonna just do it on their own, and they, have the knowledge of the resources, right? And then, how can our community partners help share this out too, and support individuals if they want to make an application as well. So thanks again. Alrighty. We are flying through our agenda. Our next update is agenda item 4C, Youth Violence Prevention Program Update.
Thank you, Council. Yes, good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to provide a few updates on the Notice of Funding, or the NOFO grants for 2023, just so we can be on the same page, and just so you all are aware of the process this year. So right now, the date that I am slating to have our NOFO applications go live is March 6th. So just around the corner next month. We're going to recommend that we keep the same 80-20 split as we did last round. So 80% focused around intervention work, and then the 20% surrounding prevention work, with the focus this year a little bit more, hopefully, on applicants surrounding more mental health, some mentorship programs for our at-risk youth, and maybe some workforce programs, so on and so forth. So the application, as I said, will be going live the beginning of March. It will be live for 4 full weeks, with the review panel coming together the first week of April. To review all the applications, their programming, those documents that each organization submits, and then we'll hopefully be going to study session in April and May, and then of course council to follow that. A couple of updates. So surrounding the application this year, keeping it very similar to what we did last year. Really, what I'm going to focus on is the reviewing and the scoring criteria for each organization, each application that we receive. I really want to focus this year on making sure we understand, as a review panel, what the programming looks like, how that programming is going to impact not just our at-risk youth, but our community as a whole. Just to dive a little bit deeper into that as we're reviewing all of the applications. So I did want to just refer back to the grantees that were awarded back in 2022, just so you have that knowledge base. For intervention, we did have 4 agencies that were awarded: so the 18th Judicial Assessment Center, the JAC, Aurora Community Connection, Mosaic Unlimited, and then the University of Colorado AIM project. With our prevention this time around, I know last year we focused, I believe we had 8 awarded agencies, the thought was last year maybe, since we have the $100,000 appropriated to prevention, we wanted to do 10 agencies with $10,000 each. My hope this year is to maybe expand that a little bit more, and maybe increase the amount of funding for prevention for each agency. So stay within that $100,000, but maybe some agencies will have 15,000. Some agencies will still have the 10. Just be a little bit more flexible with that based on the programming. But the prevention awardees last round were A1 Boxing, Aurora Housing Authority, Aurora Sister Cities, Denver Area Youth for Christ, Driven by Our Ambitions, or DBOA, Rocky Mountain Welcome Center, the Salvation Army, and Urban Nature Impact. And this was just kind of a refresher. I just wanted you all to be aware of who was awarded last round, as we're going into kicking off the process for 2023. So any questions from any of you that you have, I'm happy to answer surrounding this or anything else.
Thank you, Joseph. Councilmember Marcano, do you have any questions?
I'm just curious to know the total program metrics, like how many folks have we served? Do you know, are there like positive testimonials and whatnot?
Sure.
Just would like to know that ahead of this next round of funding.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember, for bringing that up, because that will be part of my review criteria. So as I get my staff hired that will be overseeing these NOFO grantees, this year as they are awarded, that person will be going out. I'm in the process of developing essentially a quality check document. I'm going to have this manager that's going to be over these grants go over to each agency that is awarded on a monthly basis, just to check in with them, check in on their programming, and really dive a little bit deeper into the success stories, not just numbers, but really understanding more of that programming and making sure that we have that strong working relationship with them, and that they're following through with what they said they were going to do, and we're keeping a pulse on that. So that is something that I will be looking to for long term as we award these grantees this next round.
And can you talk a little more about the outreach process to community? Because I do think that, you know, this kind of programming is very valuable, but most importantly, I want to make sure that we're actually providing what the community needs, what they're telling us that they need.
Sure. So we're starting to kick it off. I'm working with our communications staff now on kicking off the 3rd and 4th week of February, just to start putting this on our social media as a city. So we are getting the word out there to the community. And then I'm also holding information sessions the end of February as well as March to help answer questions about the application, the process, what that looks like, just to make that available for the community. And those information sessions will be recorded and posted as well, so they can always refer back to those as needed.
Okay, great. And then
I just wanted to add, we have a very robust listserv. I think it's almost 200 people. So that includes a lot of the organizations that work with youth in Aurora, the school district, our faith-based leaders, other nonprofit networks. So it will be going there as well. And we've also collected several nonprofits over the past 6 months that have said, wait, I didn't get, funding last year. I'm interested. And so we've plugged them into those lists as well.
And finally, this is something that was actually brought up at the Racial Equity Subcommittee for the Arapahoe County Justice Coordinating Committee yesterday morning. How are we engaging our most at-risk youth? Because I understand that typically those are like, kids and frankly families sometimes who kind of have fallen off, don't really make contact with public services, and are difficult to really bring into the, to talk to us about what their struggles are, what they want to see. So how are we specifically targeting those folks?
Yeah, so great question. So that's something that is very much a passion for me, is targeting the folks that we need to be targeting. And so I've been very intentional in my community outreach with our community partners, not just for the youth that are coming into their centers or engaging with them, but really trying to expand and get to where the youth are, meeting them where they're at. Excuse me, because that's the youth that we really need to be learning the most from. I'm in the process of trying to get a meeting with the youth detention center, so I can, speak with youth. Of course, they're in a facility, but understanding really what their backgrounds are, what they needed before they got to where they are, and hoping to develop programming surrounding that. So I would say right now what I'm doing is really leveraging with the community partners that we have. But my goal as we work through this further is to take that a step further and really engage the youth that aren't engaging in those centers necessarily, going through, if we need to go to neighborhoods, partnering with the police department, and making sure that we're targeting the most at-risk youth who need the services that we're providing.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just, when we bring up the updates, I recall the conversation of kind of switching the focus of the youth violence prevention program. I was not in support of reducing the amount of prevention dollars from kind of the originally thought out or proposed programming. So I'll just say, I hope that, if we hear more from community and the need of prevention dollars, that, you'll bring that back to us. And if we need to kind of reevaluate the shift, of the current kind of breakdown of funding, that having that feedback would support a conversation if that is warranted in the future. That's all I'd like to say, but thank you for the update. I know there's so many things in nexus to youth violence prevention. I know I've been speaking with the Aurora Public Schools team on how do we kind of reach mutually aligned goals, just because we're not over the school board, clearly we still have a vested interest in our youth, and how can we partner together and more strategically to utilize, close down school buildings or school buildings during the summer when we know there's opportunity for students to take advantage of things of those idle resources. So I kind of have, want to continue ongoing conversations with you all staff to see if there are any other, strategic opportunities for us to partner, especially as you're hearing kind of feedback on the ground from organizations that you work with and fund.
Absolutely. No, I would very much appreciate that, and I appreciate your comments as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Councilmember Coombs, you have your hand raised, and Ellis apparently.
Yes. So I just wanted to check in on, as we move forward, making sure that awardees are present at the meetings when council is discussing these items, in case there are any questions or comments about their programs, whether that be at committee or at the full council meeting, or maybe both. I just want to make sure folks have the opportunity to kind of speak on what they're doing, since that's been an issue moving forward, or an issue recently.
Yes, council member, thank you so much for that. That is actually one of the requirements that I'm building into the application process, is that if selected to move forward, the agencies would be required to attend study session and full council as well, for that reason, so they can help answer questions, they can speak to their programming specifically since they are designing it, and just be more present in the process. So that is going to be one of the requirements this round to be awarded funding.
I just wanted to add a couple other things just based on the feedback from this process last year, and both just observing other grant processes that we've been doing. Is we already have a standard budget template. We'll make sure that people are utilizing that the different areas are defined. We work on a lot of different grants in our program, within our department. So indirect versus direct costs versus administrative costs, making sure those are all clearly defined as people are filling out a standard budget document. So everybody's not submitting something different to look at. We're also looking at a cap on some of those administrative or staffing costs, or making sure that they're very directly related to direct program costs as that feedback's come up. The other piece is that this timeliness is important for the prevention grants. For intervention, it's a little bit different. These are ongoing programs, but the prevention level is really focused on some of the summer months when kids aren't in school. And so we want to get this money out as quickly as we can once we have some decisions made. And so we're looking at, once we take this to Horns, we'll brief public safety as well and come to study session for those grants that are, you know, in the $10,000 to $20,000 range that we would typically not bring to council for approval, to just get those out and into the community. And we'll bring back anything that would meet the regular, you know, purchasing and grantee threshold for council. So that'll be something else that we'll be asking for at study session once we have those recommendations, so that folks have the money to spend this summer. Last summer we ran into folks not getting funding till the end of July, and so that was really not as helpful for providing some of the intentional summer programming.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm glad Councilmember Coombs brought that up, because I think from what I understand is that since we have this youth violence prevention grant funding kind of just next in the process in terms of what's staff's workflow, that they're kind of making adjustments real time based on kind of the ARPA grant conversations that we had on Monday. But my understanding is that, you know, that's going to be incorporated kind of moving forward, so that we're doing what we can on the front end to be clear with folks and set organizations up for success. Like at the end of the day, you know, a council member is going to make a vote however they want, but, you know, from the perspective from staff, like how are we setting organizations up for success? An example being, if we're now going to have a criteria, like if it is the kind of temperature of council that they don't want 50% of their particular grant funding going towards a specific cost, then, you know, as much as we can be upfront with that would be helpful. Don't know if that's necessarily a best practice, but it is a decision that if the will of the majority of council is going to kind of move forward, that it seems like timely, and it seems like a good idea for staff to kind of respond real time. So I appreciate y'all being very diligent. I was disappointed, frankly, in how that conversation went. And I actually really like the idea of having folks required to come to those meetings. Like it just, you know, I don't know if everyone always has that capacity, but if we can be upfront, you know, that's, you know, and if we continue virtual meetings too, that probably makes it more accessible as well. So all that being said, I appreciate where this is going. I did request that if we do start to get more stringent on our criteria, that we explore the idea of what it could look like for technical assistance. Not necessarily that the city would own that. I think that would be a conflict of interest, right? We're helping you write the grant that you're applying for, that we decide funding for. But I know that that's a barrier to applying for a lot of our small community-based nonprofits that frankly like do some really great work and are going to reach communities that like we'll never have had the opportunity to build relationships with. So getting the dollars where they need to go, that's a request and kind of a standing exploration that we have going on in the background. So as we start responding to kind of real-time adjustments, how can we continue to remove barriers to access just straight up funding, let alone like providing services? So yeah, thanks for the updates. Any other questions, comments, concerns from the committee? All right. Alrighty then, we have worked through the main items of the agenda. Are there any updates from community? Since, I don't see any just attendees, so I don't see folks on the WebEx aside from staff, unfortunately. I don't know if there are any providers. I will just say I'm assuming that staff will give an update on the Aurora Point and time counts in the future. But having been able to participate for the first time, I was just wanted to express my gratitude for the work that y'all do in that area. It was very well organized. And I felt clear, having not done it before, how I could show up in a meaningful way. And it was so cold, so when I went out in my area, I didn't see a lot of folks, but getting to talk with folks, and hopefully the theory being that folks who are experiencing homelessness in the time of very freezing cold are actually hopefully in our shelters for overnight. So I'm assuming that that's kind of what happened. And yeah, I was happy to be able to participate and kind of just be boots on the ground and not just the policy person, to kind of get a little taste of what y'all do on a day-to-day basis to be able to provide our services. So just wanted to thank you all for a well-organized event, and kudos to all of the staff, Emma and everyone else on your team, Jessica. I thought it went really well, and I hope that I get to participate in years coming forward.
Absolutely. And you're not giving yourself enough credit, Councilmember Murillo. You did this in 2020 because I was out with you. So you have done it before and volunteered. But thank you for volunteering again. And thank you to Councilmember Marcano and Medina, who also came out and volunteered. It was very cold, but Emma and Emily on my staff did a great job getting it organized. And it's always nice to see community volunteers willing to go out and talk to folks. The data for that always comes in July, but we did try to keep some kind of preliminary numbers. We also had high shelter numbers that night. So I think we're at 170 at Comitas and about 130 at the Day Resource Center. So ACOT was out, thanks to Courtney and her team doing that the night before. Yeah, we have some preliminary ideas, but yeah, that data doesn't come out till July.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And maybe we could just do a quick update when that data comes out for future agenda purposes. All right. Any other updates? Okay. All right. I guess that concludes the business of our meeting, and we are adjourned. Thank you all. We'll see you next week, next month. Bye.
All right, take care, y'all.
Thank you.